Good day, YouTubers, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all around the world. We finished the lights. Let's turn this off and turn these on. See, that's the little battery box that I got wired coming out of the bottom of the ship. So there's the three in the back. I'm trying to create some shadow from the light coming in through the window. And there's the one on the main mast. So let me give a little explanation, because this one was easy, and you can see the wire sticking down a little bit there. I'm going to fold that up under there. But with that play that you have with your wires is critical. Back here you have no play, and that's where we had some trouble. Hence this one is not mounted in the proper orientation. It needs to be turned like 45 degrees to be sitting sort of hanging back like this one is, and that one hanging back toward the stern more. That one's sort of hanging in that way. And it just ended up, because the base was glued on there, out of square compared to the placement of the base on that ledge. So of course last week we did this one, and this week we did the other three. And in the process, after I did the first one this week and got it tested and wired up, glued it up, I was feeling pretty good about myself. And then I got to these two on the outside here of the stern, and there was 15 millimeters of wire sticking up, but that's not the problem. The problem is there's nowhere to stuff the wires, similar to here. But here we had a little space in this crown to go down with the wires some, but not out here on the corners. So what I ended up doing was stripping and cutting the wires so they were just above the lens here, because the LED would not fit through the base and the bottom of the lens. It was just too big. Couldn't drill it out, because there wouldn't be nothing there because the LED was so big. So how do you hook that LED up? Well, I turned the LED upside down and had the prongs, the connections for it, sticking up, and my wires were sticking up when this cap wasn't on there. I was able to get this much above the top of the lens so that I could solder the wires to the leads of the LED while the LED was upside down. It actually did work. And the bottom of the LED is down in here, which is the very bottom of the space that it's allowed to be in, and the light shines through, so it came out all right. But these two done upside down, and these two done like you would normally do your wire connections, with the LED on top and the wires underneath. Just a lesson for those who bought the light kit for the Cereal Royale and they get to that point where you're installing the LED. That LED fits in there just right, upside down, and the prong's sticking up. Your wire's sticking up right beside them. You just got to get the wire wrapped and put some flux on there and solder it. And then the cap had a little bump sticking out so it would center itself into the lens. I ground that bump off just so there wouldn't be any chance of my leads touching that raw pewter metal in there, and made the bottom of it flush. So, the LED adventure is complete. So what else was I doing this week? And what we're doing now is the lifeboats. We got Lifeboat 1 and 2. And the directions wanted us to start with 2 first. So we follow directions. Try to most of the time anyway. And then lifeboat number 1 is here. I haven't cut it out yet. So the way they put these lifeboats together is a little unique, and it makes it easy to do the planking. So they give you this plate, which you end up throwing away later on, and you stick all the frames in this plate and glue it up. And there's all the frames there. So after you get it glued up and you put the planks on, then you cut the bottom of the frames off flush with the edge of the boat. So this was on here. Oh, I got that foul rib on there so it won't go down all the way, but this was, yeah, it was like that. Something like that. And of course the keel wasn't on there. I just glued that up yesterday. But you had to cut the frames off from where it connects to this plate that the frames were glued into to keep everything plumb and perpendicular so that everything would line up right. And with that frame holding all the plate holding all the frames, it allowed you to put the planking on here fairly easy, because these were 3 millimeters by a 1/2 millimeter thick. Real easy to bend, real easy to work, cut and shape. So we got that lifeboat roughed up, and I glued in a couple of these deck plates, but I shouldn't have, because and it showed me in the plans not to glue it, but I was trying to get ahead and didn't think twice. But the next step was to put this decking here in the bottom of the lifeboat. So I got to get this broke free from the parchment paper, and then using some measurements try to get a pre-cut shape for this deck to go down in the bottom of the lifeboat. And then I may cut it in half or cut 1/3 or something like that in order to get it in there, because I wasn't supposed to glue on these 2 plates, but I shaped them and fitted them and then got all excited and put the glue to it. And then I was painting it, and I got to looking at the plans again. I said, oh no, I shouldn't have glued that, because how am I going to get this in there? I had to build that next. And that's just 2 millimeters by a 1/2 millimeter thick boards that are glued together edge to edge. And then I use this parchment paper and this counterweight to hold them down flat while I was adding more boards to the mix. And then this is going to be the base for the Lifeboat. That'll get mounted in the ship. And of course, I think Lifeboat number 2 will sit on top of Lifeboat number 1, or vice versa. Yeah, Lifeboat number 2 is the bigger one, and Lifeboat number 1, which I haven't done yet, will sit on top of this bigger one that we've already started. So today, cutting and shaping this deck boards to go in the bottom of this, and a bunch of little details. We got the rudder, some shunt framing that goes in on top of that deck, a little grill piece that's going to go in this opening up here, and I think this is I'm not sure what it is yet, but I know it goes in the middle there somewhere. But they wanted us to shape up these pieces of brass like so, because it was just a flat piece of laser cut brass. And then I glued it onto this one. I think the other one's going to go up here in the front for a mast. So why is that one? I may have done this one wrong. I don't know. I got to look at the plans. So I'm going to work on these other little details and painting. I did put, after I got all the planking on, while it was still attached to that base piece, I put a nice thick coat of glue over everything just to make it more solid, because these boards are so thin. And then let that dry overnight, and then I sanded it and shaped it a little bit before I put these other pieces on and cut it free from the base piece. Well, you say, how did you cut that free from the base? Because you can see where it was attached there. It was quite a bit of connection points that were fairly thick. So I just clamped this up in my little bench vise over there, standing on its edge, and used the Dremel to cut away those places that were, but I stayed away from the edge of the boat by a millimeter or two, and then took that last millimeter or two off of the edge of the boat once I got this free from the base, using this sanding thing here, and took that last little bump that was sticking up on the frame down to the edge of the boat, and then a little bit of cleanup work, and then started the next step. So the process of doing these 2 lifeboats is going to be almost like building another whole ship, with all the little details and the paint and the little pieces that are going to be involved. We've got a whole pile of rudders there that are going to be used, or paddles that are going to be used in the. And once we get these 2 lifeboats done, and we glue these people together, we got to paint the people. There's I think there's 7 or 9 people that we got to glue together and paint, similar to these people that are here, only these people are smaller. It's a different scale. And I've got 14 of these people. They're all over the boat. There's some up on the crow's nest. They're climbing the rat lines. And this ship has 2 captains, 2 sergeants, 2 admirals, because I ordered double of the people kits from Artesia Latina and just painstakingly painted them up and stuck them all over the place on the ship. So after we do these people, we got a detail of the nameplate and a little touch-up work. 2 lifeboats, people. We're almost done with this baby, but we're not, because we've got a lot of work to get these lifeboats finished and installed. But that's actually the end of the build. Once we get these 2 lifeboats and the people done, pretty sure we'll check over the plans real good, and we'll do some touch up and take a bunch of photos in the studio or something. But we're making headway toward the 2-year mark. I'm going to look on the channel and see when we first started to build this, but I know we're getting close to 2 years if we haven't already passed it. 2 years. Every step in the build. 1 video every week for 2 years solid. This one took a year. The HMS Bounty, which I took back into the display room, took a year. The Cuddy Sark took a year. My chickens take a year. I only got 1 egg yesterday. Oh, I got 1 egg today so far. And a lot of nasty weather. Are you guys coming out to see if I'm going to give you anything? Yep. Just a talking. Just a talking. Just a talking. Just a talking. Hello. You want me to give you some worms, don't you? Yeah. They're so spoiled. That's why they act like that. Spoil them. So let me boot up the computer and sit down and work on this deck board thing and see if I can get it ready to install and see what's next on these lifeboats. Okay, so they got this one photo here that shows it's a template for the planking. It's sort of like the parchment paper, I guess, and a bunch of measurements of width and 140 millimeter length. So I zoomed up on this photo real close so I could see these measurements from 15 millimeters out to 27 millimeters back down to a peak and went ahead and measured that out and marked it up and cut it. So if I can get this in there without cutting it in half, I don't know about that. Yeah, look at that. We got enough room there. We can bend this down. Yeah, and get it in there. Okay. So scoot that forward a little bit. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, we just got to get some glue in there. Glue that baby down. All right. Now get it back out without breaking it. There we go. This 0.5 millimeters thick boards, once you get them glued together, and it's some pretty good glue, that tight bond. So, and then we're going to paint it and all too. We get some glue in there and glue that up and position it, and then put some we'll have to get some counterweights rigged up ahead of time so we can push that little bit of a curve into it till that glue sets. Some counterweights in there, something that'll sort of match. A couple of these I can lean together. That might do the trick. I got two of these blocks that are pretty heavy. So let's try that. And once I get that installed and glued, counterweighted, then we'll look at what next we can do on this longboat. If not, then I'll start on the other one, at least getting the pieces cut out and glue the frames into that base so that we can wait for that to dry before we do the planking. Planking took me 2 days, probably 8 or 10 hours. You would think it'd go quicker than that, but you fiddle in with these little pieces, and each little piece takes 10-20 minutes. Time you get it shaped and glued on there. And I've been using contains ethyl cyadium lacquylate, which is like super glue with ethyl in it, and that makes it dry real quick, I guess. But it's a metal jewelry for glass and metal, and it does work on wood too. And I use that to actually glue these on to the frame with. And every now and then I would have to put a pin. I'd use a little clothespin or a needle pin, sewing pin. Every now and then I have to stick one of those into the plank board to the frame to hold it while the glue set. And then I put the coat, real thick coat, brushed it on there with a very soft brush of the wood glue. And I went back and put wood glue on the frames on the inside too before I let it set, and then we painted it. So that's why I'm saying the long lifeboats are going to take a lot of time between the planking and all these little details. It's not going to just go in a couple days. I'll probably spend a week or two on this one at the same time I'm getting started on the other one. Between all the details and the painting and letting stuff dry, you can't just keep going when it's got wet glue. Okay, we got that glued in there and counterweights on it. Got to do something in the meantime, so I went ahead and punched out Lifeboat number 1. Yep, there's a couple more pieces there that we'll have to punch out. We got some here. And I was using this corner of the laser cut to plumb those up as I glued them in. And I just want us to glue it into this base rack with some legs. And now you can see that the lifeboat is upside down. And that's how we can plank it with ease. Well, not ease, but it'll be a way to plank it. And we'll let the planks come up to that step right there. There's a step on each one of these laser cut pieces. And we let the planks stop at that step, and then we cut it off with the Dremel below that step or in the middle of that step. Maybe this one might be different in the cutoff point because the other one was taller. Yeah, the other one was taller and had another part sticking up that we cut through. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure because the inside beam that's going across that frame is below where the planking is going to stop at. So we'll be cutting off flush with the top of the inside beam. So there's just the frame coming up to the edge of the planking and stopping. So when we let that dry before we can plank it. Let's see here. We got some other pieces to put on, and then some braces that go across the top between the frames and mark it for painting. And then after painting, we got the rudder and a bunch of detail work to do. And after the rudder, it just keeps going on and on. Oh, there's a little anchor. Yeah, I saw that in the kit. So we got a little anchor to make up, and then we start on the next one. And I think the next one, which is going to sit on top of this one, will have the paddles and some more details, because it's going to show. You can see how they're planking it there, one board at a time, till you get down to that sliver, and then you got to shape that sliver to fit in there. And the same process all over again for the second boat. Deck in the floor, a stand for it to sit on, painting, rudder, some more details, paddles, some buckets. I don't remember seeing them buckets in the kit. I gotta go find those. And the ship's main label, Cereal Royale. We've already built the base. We just got to make the plate for the label. And then mount the two lifeboats on the big ship. I might add some rigging to the ship, running rigging that we'll use to lift the lifeboats out of the ship, just to give it some more realistic effects. You know, blocks and pulleys and running ropes to lift them up and pull them out. That's it, baby. Last photo. So we're at the point where probably 30 or so photos from the end. Time we build this second boat and all the details involved. Another week or two. And of course the people, I think, are on the end of this parts list. Yes, but they're not showing what color to paint them, so I'll have to just come up with something. Okay, we got a few more details done. I think I'm going to paint next. They want us to put some little brass things on and some pins for the oars, and drill a 1/2 millimeter hole. So we got to put these along the rail, and there was no rail there, so that was something I added. I didn't see anywhere in the plans that showed. It looked like it was just a thick edge, but I added this little piece of 2 millimeter wide and glued it into the top of all the frame members. We got these middle ribs installed, the mast holders, and the rudder. So I think the next thing, before I can do these little brackets for the oars, we're going to do all the painting, the bottom and the side and the top, and try to get all those colors done before we do any more detail work. So we could go ahead and glue up the frame for the other boat, which is going to be smaller than this one. It'll sit on top of this one, and that'll give us some side work to do when we're waiting for paint to dry or something. We can start planking on that one. Thanks for watching.